all the small things, we discuss reports that Meghan Markle is encouraging Prince Harry to hang out with a member of Blink 182.
And the Princess of Wales has just released a beautiful photograph of herself taken by Prince Louis. He's obviously inheriting his mother's skills as a photographer. And she's asking us to focus on her work rather than her wardrobe. So we will be dissecting all of that.
Welcome to Heirs and Spares, the show that dives into the fascinating world of two of the most recognized royal couples on both sides of the Atlantic. I'm Kinsey Schofield, and I'll be bringing you updates on the Duke and Duchess of Sussex here in California.
And I'm Katie Nichol, and I'll have all the latest news from the Prince and Princess of Wales from here in the not so sunny United Kingdom.
Kate, so many great Princess of Wales stories over the last 48 hours. I adore seeing her out and about again, but I I think that we're going, you'll go into this a little bit more heavily, but I'm going to stop myself from talking about her wardrobe from now on, and I won't acknowledge how chic she looked in her most recent Instagram picture.
No, I know. Let's not focus on the coat in this picture. Although I have to say, she looks like she's really wrapped up warm. It was one of those obviously very, very cold winter days. She doesn't want us focusing on the coat. She wants us focusing on her. And this is an Instagram post that has just dropped ahead of World Cancer Day. So very, very significant, very poignant, and taken by Prince Louis. Of course, he's only 6, so he's taken the camera and taken a photograph of his mother, and she's in some beautiful woodland, I'm sure, in Norfolk. It was taken clearly during the cold winter months, and she's got her arms outstretched, and she's posted this lovely, really, really beautiful image, and she's got this quote that runs with it. It says, "Don't forget to nurture all that which lies beyond the disease." And I think, that will mean so much to so many people. What she's saying is that look beyond the label of cancer here. Look at what else is going on in life. There is so much to be thankful and grateful for. And I think one of the most amazing things that the Princess of Wales has done, following her cancer diagnosis, is to really put out that message of optimism and positivity. And I think for anyone going through a cancer diagnosis that's been touched by cancer, and that's 1 in 2 of us, those words will really resonate. She strikes me very much as a beacon of light, a beacon of hope in this, terrible disease which affects so many people. And I think on that journey, so many people can feel isolated. They can feel like there's never going to be any light at the end of the tunnel. There is. And she's really shining her spotlight on this cause to highlight it. To make it real, to make and to make it relatable, and she's showing us that there is light at the end of the tunnel. And I think it's just charming that it's a photograph that was taken by Louis. It's lovely that she's recognizing World Cancer Day. It comes, as you say, Kinsey, after a really quite busy week for her. We saw her getting back to work and making her first away trip to Wales, where she was visiting a children's hospice, which she has been named the new patron of. She succeeds Princess Diana and the Prince of Wales, now the King, in that role of patron. And she looked great, and she looked wonderful. She looked happy. This is part of her gradual return to work. We're not going to see her sort of carrying out these engagements on a weekly basis, but I think it was very encouraging to see her out and about, and then lovely to have this picture released on Instagram and on their social media channels acknowledging World Cancer Day. It's clearly going to be a very important thing for the King and the Princess of Wales, having gone through their own cancer journeys.
I have to ask you a question because we found out over the weekend that the Princess of Wales would like for us to focus on her work and less on her wardrobe.
Mm.
Is this at all in response to the story that the Daily Mail reported that Vogue considers the Princess of Wales a fashion icon and they would like to see her on the cover of their magazine? Because how interesting that within a week of those stories, I mean, it's probably less, the Princess of Wales goes, actually, wait, it's not necessarily what I want to be known for. I want to be known for my work.
Yeah, I mean it's a good point, Kinsey, and I hadn't actually drawn that parallel between the story about her being courted for the cover of Vogue, and these comments. I had actually wondered if it was more to do with the fact that she feels she's doing her most important life's work around children's hospices, around early years, and now around cancer. And you sort of don't get past the first or second line in most reports about you reading about her Zara high street dress or her Amelia Wickstead coat or whatever. I sort of find myself as guilty of this, I think, probably as you do, that you think, gosh, why am I writing about this when actually the message that she's putting out there, the work that she's putting out there is so much more important. But of course, pictures speak 1,000 words, they're important. There is, of course, that Kate effect, that what we call the Kate effect in the press, whereby she'll wear something and it sells out immediately. It's interesting because I was thinking back to some of the early years of my coverage of Kate and William when they were the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, when they were newly engaged. And I don't think we were given details of her dresses at that point. I remember finding it really hard. We would be on engagements or on tours, and Kensington Palace deliberately wouldn't give us details of the dresses. Now, someone very clever in the fashion department of the newspapers would always quickly source where the dress was from. And if it was Zara, it would sell out immediately. If it was McQueen, the high street would be doing a knockoff version. But I think perhaps the palace sort of fell into a bit of a habit of giving us that detail to be helpful to us as journalists, because it was hugely helpful. But I wonder if there's been this rethink that actually it's really not necessary. We don't need to know the label of who she's designing by, and they actually want the effort to be put into the message that she's getting across and the important work. And I just make another point as well. It reminded me of when I was researching my book, Kate, the Future Queen. And I remember being told by one of her friends who'd gone to university with her that she was really a very reluctant clothes horse. I mean, I know she did that fashion show, and of course, that's where she caught Prince William's eye on that catwalk. We all remember that. Although she wasn't wearing that many clothes at the time, it was that wonderful see-through dress. But she's never been a huge lover of fashion. That idea of being a style icon was something that really quite eluded her. So she's found her fashion stride. She's found the designers that she loves. She knows what works for her. But I think, unlike the late Princess of Wales, Princess Diana, who really was a style icon, who absolutely loved fashion, I think Kate's a bit different from that. And I can completely understand why she gets a bit frustrated when so many people are commenting on her wardrobe rather than on what she's saying, who she's meeting, or what she's doing.
Yeah, so I was going to bring up Princess Diana, listening to you talk about your experience with Catherine and not getting that information, because I specifically remember in my Diana research that being something that Diana's team ensured that the royal rota had. Here's what she's wearing. And it probably was because she was embracing this role. I also think she had great relationships with some of those designers and enjoyed helping her friends, enjoyed
Yeah,
elevating them. Um, but
absolutely.
but there is a real distraction. I remember during the last Invictus Games, every day we'd get a rundown of what Meghan was wearing, and that was the story. And
I know.
Invictus Games
It
is
takes
such,
over, doesn't it?
yeah, it's such a great
It
cause, and it
takes
felt like
over.
we barely, we barely touched on that. So
Yeah.
I absolutely understand Catherine's request. I'm going to do my best to honor it, but if she looks fierce, I might say something about it.
Well, obviously, Kinsey, for you and I, it will make our job even harder because, of course, we will be having to Google because our editors are going to want to know, and I think the readers are going to want to know. But I think the point is, perhaps it comes a little bit further down the story if it's indeed acknowledged. But like you say, she's wearing something fabulous and wonderful. People are going to want to know where the dress is from. So I get where she's coming from, absolutely understand it. But I think she also has to accept that she's the most photographed woman in the world. She's one of the most iconic women in the world, one of the most famous women in the world. And there is inevitably going to be an interest in her wardrobe. And particularly when you think about the jewels that she wears, because those jewels often have historic importance and they've been passed down through generations of the royal family. And there is always an interest in the tiaras and the diamonds and everything else. So I don't think Kensington Palace is going to be able to get away from it completely. But I think it's clearly a message out there, and she's just going to want to sort of renose the narrative. And on that point about renosing the narrative, it's interesting. You get this real sense about the Prince and Princess of Wales wanting to control their narrative quite carefully in terms of the stories that are put out there, and the story about Prince William as well, sort of wanting to sort of have a bit more not influence over the media, but making sure that it's a better working relationship with the media. So there's a story that was in the newspaper about how they recognize there needs to be that bit of give and take between them as public people, but also that recognition within the media that they are also private individuals. It was an interesting timing of that story because, of course, it comes just after Prince Harry has settled with the Sun over allegations of historic illicit news gathering, and we know that the Prince Harry accepted a big out of court settlement. So it's sort of an interesting time, I thought, for this story to emerge.
You're right. And in this I story, I felt like there were details that I'd never thought about of the way that the Prince and Princess of Wales work. That's actually very clever. Richard Palmer says, within earshot of the press pack, they drop charming little stories about their children, whether it's their favorite sports or music or school subjects. That, it's absolutely right because it's just a quick mention. And it doesn't blow up the internet, but it makes us feel a little bit more invested in the family. We love knowing that, who is it? Tina Turner, Prince William blasts Tina Turner with the kids because he loved it,
Yeah.
listening to it
And
with his mom.
ACDC.
Yeah, yeah. So it's just those little moments where we feel more invested in the family, and
Yeah.
they're not giving us too much detail, but it's a clever way to keep us engaged. So I did like that, and it also feels like Prince William has has a lot of faith in his team at Kensington Palace when it comes to their relationships with the media. And I think that shows leadership when you are able to say, you're better at this than I am. I'm going to let you be in charge. I don't need to
Well,
be
they
have.
hire these people, don't they, Kinsey, to manage their press, to look after their press. And I think, across the pond, Meghan and Harry could learn a lot from that. What's the point in paying these world-class publicists and comms directors if you're not going to listen to their advice? I think you're absolutely right that, William and Kate, they have a great team around them. As to Harry and Meghan, by the way, it's just William and Kate seem to listen to their team a lot more, I think, than Harry and Meghan have done. I always remember speaking to one of the people who worked, very senior source who worked with the Sussexes, who said, they didn't want to take the direction and the advice of their PR strategists. And that makes the job of a PR really difficult. Now, William and Kate are, very involved in their social media platforms, in the content. But I think there's a lot of trust that they put in their press spokespeople. Most recently, I was working on a story about Prince George and the schools that he's going to go on to, and we'll often get guidance, and particularly when it comes to children, they'll ask us to be sensitive. They'll explain that a decision hasn't been made. And I think any sort of respected journalist will take that on board. You find a way to write the story that is respectful of those guidelines, and those media guidelines that they put in place regarding their children have been incredibly successful. So we're hearing little details about the ballet that they enjoy or the music that they listen to, but we're not hearing anything that's going to be seen as intrusive or overly personal. They're giving us little crumbs that, as you say, just sort of satisfy public appetite, gives us a bit of an insight into their lives as a family, but it is not too private because, of course, they want privacy. They've made it very clear that they want that privacy, and they put clear guidelines in place. And I think for the most part, it does seem to work.
Yeah, the American media still, because I think of Prince Harry's lawsuits and litigation, I do get questions by the American media of if the tabloids are still so invasive. And I've said there's been an evolution. You don't see pictures of Prince William's children walking out of school. There has been an evolution, and a positive evolution. It was an American media outlet that snapped an image of the Princess of Wales during her, after her abdominal surgery. It wasn't a UK tabloid. And so there is this misconception that the tabloids are still as allegedly naughty as they previously were. But I do think the death of Princess Diana really shook things up and made the media focus on, having some guidelines, some stronger guidelines. But because you mentioned the Sussex's PR, I'm going to flip flop some of our stories, if you don't mind, because it's a great segue into Meghan Markle attending the Invictus Games with Prince Harry. Now, I've heard for months that she's going to this with Prince Harry. Why wouldn't she go? She's always gone with Prince Harry since they've been together. But this story says that there is a new strategy PR wise. This is with Ashley Hansen, who has gone off and created her own PR company, but Harry and Meghan are still utilizing her. And the new strategy is this focus on the Sussexes as a couple, as a brand, showcasing them as a family. And a source told, I believe it was the Express, the Sussexes have decided to step back a little and let Ashley take the reins on their PR plan. Insiders suggest that they now plan to prioritize joint appearances to project a united front and improve their image. Um, I did. I felt like Prince Harry really shined when he did those solo engagements. I felt like it was Meghan that received heat for the solo engagements. Do you think if they are truly prioritizing this joint family unit, will it hurt Prince Harry at all? Because everybody was just gushing over how wonderful he was when he was by himself over the last few months in 2024.
Well, and also he was at the 10th anniversary of the Invictus Games over here in the UK on his own and had, as you say, a really positive response to that. It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, you talk about flip-flopping. They've really flip-flopped, haven't they? They started off very much as a team, doing everything together. And then, towards the end of last year, more than the end of last year, and certainly most of, I think, 2024, we saw them doing things more on their own, more independently. Maybe there's a feeling that that hasn't been so successful. So revert to plan A, which was Team Sussex. It's interesting if they have decided to hand the reins over to Ashley. I mean, as I say, they do have great PR people behind them. They have had some of the best PR and comms directors in their remit over the years. They never seem to last for very long.
But
So
wait, who okayed the Us Weekly article though? Because to fight Hollywood Reporter with Us Weekly, I would have gone to Vanity Fair. I would have gone to Vogue. I would have gone to Esquire. I would have gone anywhere but
Well, of
Us
course, they
Weekly.
had they had the opportunity to respond to Vanity Fair's cover story, which is, of course, incredibly controversial and pretty damaging for Harry and Meghan. And they chose not to. They chose not to give an interview. They chose not to respond to any of those allegations. So I think, really, Kinsey, the truth is they're kind of limited, aren't they, in terms of the publications now that they can go to. They've cut off the whole of British press pretty much. They don't want to have anything to do with the British press. Vanity Fair, Hollywood Reporter, Variety. None of them have done positive pieces about the Sussexes. They're sort of running out of outlets. So I think maybe it's just time for a bit of a regroup, a rethink, and possibly handing the reins over to their PR and perhaps involving some damage limitation strategy.
Another mention in this article that I did think was worth us acknowledging is that the couple, according to this article in the Express, Harry and Meghan are planning some sort, is how it's described, a fundraiser for victims of the recent wildfires in Los Angeles, a move aligned with their commitment to their humanitarian causes. I'd like to see that. I think that would be important. Something similar to where we've seen Kevin Costner do those great events for the firefighters and the first responders in the Santa Barbara area, and Harry and Meghan have attended those in the past.
Mm.
They are capable of executing something similar, and I think that would be a positive reflection on Archwell. I think it would. How can you complain about them doing their own thing versus, kind of just showing up and inserting themselves in something else that's going on? I think that would be really great if they did do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think anything that's raising funds is going to go down better than, being taken around an area by the mayor, which of course is what they did and got heavily criticized for it. And I think what I've long felt that, the more I see from Archwell, the more I see from that philanthropic side of them, the more I like. And I think this is where you've got impact. This is where particularly Harry, but Meghan too, they can do such great work in that arena. And I think it's high time we saw more of that. And perhaps if we do, then the sort of tide that seems to be very much against them at the moment might well turn.
This is a take this with a grain of salt story, but it tickled me, so I wanted to share it with you. This is the Mirror reporting it, and Touch magazine reported some element of it, and Closer magazine. So the Mirror just squishing all these stories together. But it says that there was a time when Kim Kardashian, Kris Kardashian's daughter, who Meghan, we've seen, has some sort of relationship with. She sent her some jam. Doria's been photographed with Kris. We saw Kris and Harry and Meghan at Ellen's vow renewals. They're saying that there was a time when Meghan and Kim were on the cusp of entering a lucrative business deal, and it looks like that's no longer coming to fruition. I've never heard anything about a lucrative business deal. It says that Kim Kardashian feels like their brand is not strong enough for her. I just want to remind you, this is a woman that married Kanye West, like crazy Kanye. And they say that Kim is, kind of just distancing herself because she doesn't see what's in it for her. I strongly disagree. She used to organize Paris Hilton's closets. Meghan Markle can do a thing or two for Kim Kardashian. So I don't believe that. But what was interesting to me about this piece was this revelation that both both Kourtney Kardashian and Meghan are friends with Mark Hoppus's wife from Blink 182. I never knew that. That's wild to me. And that Meghan is looking at Kourtney as some sort of mentor for American Riviera Orchard. That does make sense. Kourtney has
Well, I
created
mean, look, the
Whoosh.
Kardashians, they are just so hugely successful, aren't they, as a brand? And of course, that's what Harry and Meghan are trying to achieve. And Meghan, particularly, with her new lifestyle brand. So, look, I don't know about the stories about sort of distance being put between them. I mean, I think there is a tendency to sort of run a narrative that everyone in Hollywood seems to be turning their backs on Harry and Meghan. I don't know how true that is, but I agree with you that in terms of Meghan seeking advice, I don't think she's going to discriminate against a Kardashian at all, because they started out with a reality TV series. I think someone like Meghan, who is a very astute, sharp businesswoman, would readily sit down at the table to take some advice because she needs her business to work.
Right. And Kourtney Kardashian, who was hammered by the press and her sisters over her work ethic, has created this empire, which is incredibly impressive, where she is developing, it's not just a lifestyle brand, she's developing her own products. People are purchasing them. I do see why Meghan would be interested in that relationship. And the article also says she thinks Prince Harry would get a kick out of hanging out with Travis Barker. And that is an image that I can see after knowing that have spent some time with Cameron Diaz and her husband from Good Charlotte. So what an eclectic group of friends Harry and Meghan are collecting in the States. Not something you'd necessarily expect to see from a royal, but certainly a Hollywood royal, I guess, today.
Absolutely. And they've been rumored to have spent time with Gwyneth Paltrow in the past. Again, someone who's been hugely successful as an entrepreneur online with her lifestyle brand. And as you know, Kinsey, better than anyone, Hollywood's a small town, right?
Yeah.
It's a small place. And I mean, I know they're in Montecito, but I'm talking about the industry, where they're basing themselves, where their goals and aspirations are. It's a small industry. And having had so much of the mainstream press be critical of them, friends in high places, would be welcome friends.
And really quickly before I let you go, Katie, it is World Cancer Day. I'm so excited to see that you're running for Maggie's. Can you tell me more about that and what you're doing?
Well, I'm doing a half marathon, and anyone that knows me knows I'm not a runner at all, but I am doing it for Maggie's, which is it's a charity that offers free counselling advice and support for those going through cancer and their families. Her Majesty the Queen is patron, and I wanted to do my bit, so I will be running a half marathon in the UK in May. And if any of you would like to sponsor me, I think Kinsey, you're going to put a link somewhere on this program. So thank you so much.
All right, agree with us, disagree with us, let us know in the comments below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. We are greatly appreciative that you're here, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye, guys.